Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda or additions? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda's approved. Review of the minutes from January 9th, 2023. Minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Open public comment. Is there anyone here for open public comment? Are you here for open public comment, Ray?
Yeah, I got something.
Okay.
I heard a rumor that they tried to sell the watershed again. And I hope you don't do such a thing. That's my opinion, and I was around before, way back, several times. And, there's still a lot of timber on it to make a good vacation spot with some trails. I heard that from somebody else, but I believe it.
Okay.
And then I hear it's gonna cost $40,000. That's the big question. How did you receive the $40,000? Did you ask for money or did you?
I guess I don't know what the $40,000 is for. I don't know what the $40,000 is that you're talking about.
The road.
Oh.
In the watershed.
Oh, well, that's another topic later on in the meeting about them logging it. And if they need to, they have to have greater access, so a road has to be put in.
The final decision on selling it is no, isn't it?
We haven't even discussed it.
No.
Well, mine's no.
I mean, you're here because of that.
It's a valuable piece of land for.
Is that, you want to talk about that in open public comment?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best place for
Okay.
it.
And it's something people can use forever.
So it was just brought to the manager's attention, and had shared it with us that the intent was there, that someone was interested. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, because this is the gentleman that was interested.
Yeah, actually, I only came to listen tonight,
Okay,
so I'm
okay.
really not prepared, but since you brought it up, one of the reasons I wanted to readdress it is because there was so much misrepresentation the last time. I could not be here a lot, so I did not clarify a lot of this, but there's a couple of things I'd like to accomplish, and because I said I'm really not prepared tonight, but at the same time, it's the intent to really partner with Proctor. There's two goals for me. One is to partner with Proctor, number one. Number two is I want to turn the property into what I reference as a sanctuary. I mean, it's contiguous to property that I own, and I want to return. I was raised here in Vermont, first of all. I was raised on a farm just below Chittenden. So really my goal is, and I have my family here, we live in Florida, that's true, but we spend an incredible amount of time here as well. So what I would like to accomplish is to have this board give permission, and that's all I'm looking for at this point, is permission. You can designate the person, whether it's town manager, whether it's the select board, whether it's individuals of the select board, doesn't matter to me. I just want the opportunity to clear the air and for people to truly understand what I'm trying to accomplish, because I believe at the end of the day, it's going to have a huge benefit to Proctor. I think Proctor's going to be very satisfied, and I'm prepared to go beyond my word. That seemed to be a big fear with regards to this property. And that is to demonstrate it through whether contractual, whatever it is, to keep Proctor involved in the decision-making process of this asset. I would like to have discussions, is it something Proctor wants to continue to go onto the property, to work the property, you know. There's a lot that needs to be discussed so I can create that partnership between Debbie and myself and the town of Proctor. We are not here for, I honestly have no idea where everything came from. We had a brief conversation, I know. So anyways, I don't want to overplay this, but what I'm looking for again, and by the way, I had meetings with Chittenden as well. So Chittenden had total misunderstanding as to what was going to occur with this property. So we're clarifying things with Chittenden as well, so that they have an understanding as to what our intent is. But I assure you, the only thing I'm here for is for the betterment of the property. And I'd like to partner with and come up with a way that Proctor would accept and feel beneficial from this relationship as well. So bottom line, looking for some sort of permission by this board to own. I understand that there's other things that need to be approved, but I'm just looking for that, a relationship to start and to have conversation with whoever you all designate to have conversation with.
Okay, so, because it wasn't on the agenda tonight to raise, we are not making any motions or anything, but I think if anybody has anything to say or discussion, if you want to just say, we're not interested in revisiting this, or just table it. It's up what you guys are thinking. Any ideas, thoughts?
The people voted a few years ago, Mr. Gulek, and I kind of feel that it's their property, they voted on it, and so I will abide by their decision, personally.
Lisa, do you have a question or comment?
No, I was gonna say exactly what Tom said. I guess I would be curious what would prompt the select board to reopen it and begin conversations when it was discussed at town meeting and people did vote.
Well, I think that's everybody's understanding, it's just that because it was addressed and brought to us just to be open and, you know, transparent with everybody, we brought it to the table. It wasn't on the agenda, but since it was raised here, we talked about it. So that's my question to everybody, as what we voted on previously, if that's where they want to stay and just not even revisit the whole idea and intent. Anybody else on the board?
I think we spent a lot of time on this the first time around, and
Yeah,
I'm not ready to re-investigate it.
yeah, no, I appreciate what you've said and what have you, but I think the taxpayers have had their word, and so I don't know as it's worth going again, to be honest with you. That's my thing.
I agree.
Okay, so, the board has spoken, so, okay, thank you. Ray, do you have something else to add?
Yeah, because 4 years ago, the town meeting was voted no.
Right.
On everything up there. And I see what you're trying to do. It's not a bad idea if you could do it. But I worry about the water. I worry about the artesian well. And I would never want that to go out of town of Proctor's hands.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that, if I may, sorry.
Yeah, just for 1 minute, so we can move on.
Sure. That's, the water that's there is unacceptable for potable. It's Vermont law that you're not going to take surface water any longer. You all took that water and it went into a pump. And the pump is now environmentally endangered. on the 2.5 acres because of the chlorine that was used. And it had to be over chlorinated because it traveled 10 to 15 miles to the town of Proctor. So though, and again, I understand and I appreciate, but it's that type of misconception. I'm just looking for Proctor to make a decision based on the real facts. And this is a difficult forum to express those facts versus with an individual or individuals, a committee with regards to it. I'll have to say, because I'm contiguous, I'll stop, but again, I'm not saying the logger did a bad job, that's not, I don't, but he did it. If you all went and looked, and I can provide you with aerials of the logging that occurred, I just, it's owned by a town versus an individual that might address it differently. And to me, the logging that's been up there would be something that's totally unacceptable to me. It's more of a clear cut. He didn't leave a variety of trees. There's just,
Okay, well, I appreciate your input.
sorry.
That's okay, no, I
I'm
appreciate it.
extremely passionate about the
Okay.
problem.
All right.
And it's just, I hate to see it.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to good stuff. Anybody have good stuff?
Yeah, I had one. I just wanted, I don't know the fellow's name, but there was a fellow up on Beaver Pond ice skating and picking up bottles that had blown onto the ice surface, litter, whatever. So I just wanted to say thank you to him for a job well done. I would have never thought of it. It was nice to see him skate too, he's good.
And I think our whole crew did a fantastic job on the snow removal with the storm.
I agree.
Did a nice job.
All right. Anything else? Okay, now, is there a motion to go out of the board meeting into the Board of Water Commissioners?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Carries. Okay, Field Street Pump Motor Monitoring.
Yeah, I just wanted to give the board an update on this. Just to kind of be clear with the methodology, we're spending a lot of time on understanding what the problem is before we get into solving the problem. And it is pretty complex. And all that is centered around the fact that there are so many different things that could be causing the motor failure. So the next step is I'm going to meet with the operators and the foreman this week. We're going to figure out a way to get the old motor to the manufacturer so he can inspect where the failure was, and that's Franklin's Electric. And so I started that conversation last weekend with the manufacturer and the distributor. And then the next step is also understanding the hydraulics of the well itself. I received an email from Aldrich and Elliott today that isn't in your packets, but I'd like to share it with you. A&E reached out to a hydrologist to discuss steps necessary to test the well's hydraulics. This hydrologist indicated that the complexity of testing the well is directly tied to how the original well was designed. So in a simple test, this means that they can just drop a transducer tube down into the well casing, and that's the simple test. The more complex, and remember this has to do with how the well was designed, if the well has no access, it may be necessary to partially disassemble the well adapter to grant access. And if we're going to do this, if we're going to have to disassemble the pump, it may be worth sending a camera down to see what the screen looks like at the bottom of the well. All right, so I'm meeting with the guys on Wednesday to discuss these attempts to solve the problem or understand the problem. And I'm hoping by the next board meeting, I can give you all a clear path for where we're headed. And of course, all of this comes with costs. I just want to have all of this understood so that we're not just kind of throwing darts with a blindfold on and spending money. We all know it's going to take time either way, but at least we're kind of focused on understanding the problem. I'm hoping at the next select board meeting, after a meeting with the operators, that we have that clear path, and if there are costs associated with it, I'll be prepared to share them with you.
Any questions? All right, that's it under water. Is there a motion to go out of the Board of Water Commissioners and into the Board of Sewer Commissioners?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Board of Sewer Commissioners, the wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
The operator spent a good bit of time at the wastewater treatment plant last week. All the rain we've gotten is causing one of the lagoons to raise higher than the other. They have to go out there and with the pump and transfer water from one lagoon to the other, and that is because of old failing infrastructure. So this is going to be part of this scoping study, and just so you all know, that that's still in a good timeline. So everything's pretty normal there. I would like to give you a better update than that, but it's about where we're at. A&E is still in the fact-finding mission, and that's what a scoping phase is, so we're okay.
Any questions? Okay, is there a motion to go out of Board of Sewer Commissioners and back into the regular select board meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Department reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'll go ahead and knock my synopsis out really quickly. And this is included in your packets. A good bit of time has been spent on the annual reports, but we're just about ready to go, waiting for a warning, waiting for a school warning, and it'll be off to the printers on the 26th. Well, I've got a really big highlighted section here talking about town meeting. I think we can save that for later in our select board meeting. Zion Growers update, a public hearing notice for the next VCDP grant application has been published. We will have a public comment period at the select board meeting on the 13th. Like we've done in the past, the board will recess and enter the public hearing, then go back into the regular meeting. Separate meetings, separate minutes should be taken for this. I didn't attend a lot of meetings before the last select board meeting and made up for it over the last 2 weeks. So we had a kickoff meeting for stormwater master planning. We had a cedar mixer at the Castleton University Bank Gallery to honor those who took part in Vermont's first Pride March in 1983. I use these events to network. I'm not just there for the wine and the cheese. So I got a little bit of FaceTime with the Vermont State University president, told him about the beautiful empty building we have here and all the work happening at the Marble Company. So that's what I try to do with those kind of things. We had a Parks and Rec meeting. I had 2 VLCT trainings on town meeting and ballots. We had a collection policy committee meeting. Mr. Gerlach and I met once over the last 2 weeks, and I met with the new president of the Marble Museum Trust, and she's got aspirations for ARPA funds, but I told her if she did, to make sure that there's a clear plan in place that can be explained to the select board. And hold on, I'm almost down here. I'm trying to do better this time because the last couple meetings I've been just kind of scurrying through here looking for stuff. GMP versus Proctor. Attempts at mediation are ongoing. I'm hoping to schedule something in correlation with the next meeting. We can go in executive session and see if another, pending GMP's next offer, whether a meeting is warranted. Let me skip that. I get anxious talking about it, but the Beaver Pond Path, Butch and I have met twice about it, and he's met with a few V-Trans representatives. We're waiting for some feedback from V-Trans so that he and I can draft a letter to some of their executive level leadership. And this is the really big one here. It's really kind of moved to the forefront of the workload. I've drafted negotiation letters for the temporary easements along the South Street project. which is a new sidewalk. And these negotiation letters are under review by the state. All right, so by law, I must provide an explanation to landowners of the acquisition process. So what this looks like is I go to a home and I say, would you like to donate the land, or would you like to be compensated for the land? And they usually choose the latter. There are 4 properties that we need temporary easements from. 3 of them are homes. So the V-Trans gives me a spreadsheet with formulas already built into it. I just type in some information off the property card, and my math showed that each home we owed about $200 to if they wanted to get paid for the easement. The church was a little bit bigger, $600 for the church, but they might be willing to donate. I'm sending out letters just to meet with, I've met with a couple of the landowners, but I'd like to meet with the other ones before an official negotiation letter goes out. And lastly, the fire truck procurement has begun. Closed bids have been requested, and a notice will be in the next publication of the Brandon Reporter. Chief Webb also sent 5 direct quotes that have been solicited. I've included that in your packets, and I just want to give some kudos to the fire department and their committee, because that is an excellent solicitation for closed bids. So, and like I said, that's included in your packets, and they'll be having a pre-bid meeting at the fire department regarding the bids at 6:30 p.m. on February 1st. And I think that concludes the highlights of my manager's report. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Anybody have questions? Anybody on line that has any questions?
It's a busy couple
No.
weeks.
All right, everyone has the sheriff's report, or is there any questions regarding the sheriff's report?
Nope.
Treasurer's report. Any questions regarding the treasurer's report?
I do think it's important to be transparent here and let everybody know. I was going over the expenditure report when I printed it off. Overtime for water and sewer has crept over the budgeted amount. Kyle and I sat down and spoke about that, and I think it just has a lot to do with the much needed maintenance that was due to our infrastructure. And 2, you know, we've got a green crew, so kind of working with them, getting everything figured out. The goal moving forward is to make sure that they use flex time. And you know, there's plenty of money there in those water and sewer reserves, but we still want to be mindful of the budget line item, and Kyle's aware of that. And he took the budget and went to his guys and showed them that and made it clear. So it's just something we'll keep our eye on.
Yeah, and some of it might have been with the changeover on our system as far as the software, and
Yeah.
so.
I do want to remind everyone though, like a year or 2, when everyone approved that we would switch over to in-house and the thousands we were going to save, we did not, so. Just to note that. Okay. Foreman's report. Any questions on that?
Well, seems to be really thorough, and
Yeah, I think Kyle's reports are excellent, and I do kind of spot check them when I can, you know, like I know I'll send them out to Beaver Pond to clean something up. If I don't make it to Beaver Pond, I can look at the report and see it's been done, so.
I'll give him credit, because doing this is really hard, like keeping track of every single thing you do every day
Oh, yeah,
is not fun.
yeah,
So it's great.
Yeah, I manage quite a few public works crews, and it's not easy to get a foreman to take time
Right,
at the end of the day
right.
and put his thoughts together.
yeah.
And thank everybody too, again, for picking up Christmas trees. That's a nice bonus. All right. Everybody sign the bills?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so bills are paid. Select board orders? Is that just, you just included that with the bills, right? Is that what you're referring to? Okay. So next up is forest management and future harvesting in town forests.
Yeah, I think I've included as much information as you would need there in your notes, but just to kind of summarize what I said before the meeting is initially the thought was it would be too much effort for a logging company to build the infrastructure needed to get to the stands that are up next on the forest management plan. And Ms. Fraser spoke to the forester with the city of Rutland, and he objected to that. So I followed back with our forester. There's a chance that that there's a logging company out there that can complete a road this size and get to where they need to have a proper landing. The issue is the stream crossings and the terrain. So kind of in a scramble, knowing that there's a chance that we may need money to build a road before logging, there is a reserve fund for building maintenance with about $107,000 in it. In my mind, it seemed like a good idea to go ahead and move that money into a logging reserve, create a logging reserve fund, and then put that money there just in case you couldn't find a logging company that would bid the job with the construction of the road included.
So just to add, the information I got was basically there are loggers out there that are willing to make their roads themselves because they have all the equipment to do so. And they can also make the road the way they want to get to the timber. What that would do if, usually he said in contracts like that, and I spoke to a couple people, is it basically brings down the price of the timber. So we wouldn't get as much for the timber if they put in the road as well. If we created the road, it might open it up, so if we went out for an RFP to all loggers, there might be more loggers bidding on it at higher prices, because the road's there and it's got easy access to get right exactly to the timber. So I talked to Michael just as far as, do we go out for an RFP with loggers, giving us a price on, okay, we'll take, this is what we charge for what we give you for the timber, if we put the road in versus if we just went in and took the timber. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or anybody on there have any questions.
Michael, could you get us a map, maybe for the next meeting, just, where this road's gonna go? I'm sure the forester has something.
He actually does not yet. So what me and Andy, who's our forester, had planned was to go out there last week, at the end of last week, and to hike the property and actually GPS locate where a road would be suitable to get to. The forest management plan is clear that the road would need to be 1 mile, and it would need to cross a few wetlands, and it would need to cross the brook. So I think the goal is I know what the goal is, because Andy and I spoke about it today, is once the snow's gone, me and Kyle go up there, GPS locate a map, a road, so that we can spec it out on a bid if that's the route that the board wanted to take.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
I think ideally, if we had the manpower to create the road ourselves, that would be the ideal situation. If the town could actually do the road, but we don't have that manpower to do that, so. Anybody have any questions? So, are you looking for
I guess
a motion to solicit bids? Or-
Yeah, I guess just, I'm looking for, it can be a motion or just a consensus on what route we're taking. Do we want to move forward on sending out a logging bid that includes the construction of the road? Or would the board request me to send out a separate bid for the construction of the road?
Can we ask for a price for logging and a price for the road?
I think so, and then we may end up with some logging companies that say, I don't wanna put the road in.
But they only bid
But
on
this is
logging.
what I'll bid on logging.
Yeah, and if bids aren't competitive, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's right.
If bids aren't competitive, or we don't get any at all, what we can do is revisit the discussion, and if we have to go out for a single bid for just the construction of the road, we can.
Put a feeler out with that and give the two options and see if anybody comes back and
Okay.
go from there.
Sounds good.
When would you do that?
Once Andy and myself and Kyle get up there and GPS it, so I'm
Good.
thinking spring. And then this will, and then that decision will, kind of bleed over into the next meeting topic, I think.
Okay. So is that the consensus of everybody then?
Yes.
Oh, Lisa has her hand raised.
When do you have to harvest, and what kind of stand is it that you're harvesting?
So I've got a copy, I don't have a copy of the forest management plan with me, but I do in my mind know where the locations are. If you'd like, Lisa, we can meet offline and look at that forest management plan together.
Well, I'm just curious, do you have to harvest this year?
We got to do it pretty fast.
Well, you can always apply for an amendment, number one. You don't have to get in a rush.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you can easily do with your forest management plan. But number two, what kind of wood is it that you're harvesting? You don't know what the stand is?
I know it's hardwood, and what Andy was saying, it's pretty valuable, and you might be getting to this point, but some of it is ash, and it's important that we harvest that while we still can.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and timber, if I understand the forest management plan correctly, timber harvesting was supposed to take place last year, so we're kind of playing catch up.
So do you want a motion then?
Oh, so did you apply for an amendment then?
No, I actually called Stan and on a separate topic, but this came up, and it's why it's kind of being handled now.
So do you want a motion then to solicit bids?
Sure.
Okay. So is there a motion to solicit bids for the construction of a logging road as well as logging the timber?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Motion carries.
I object.
You do?
Well, I'd like to see a map. I don't know how we could put a bid out for a road when we don't even know where the road's going.
Well, it's our forester that's telling us we need a road, right?
He's told us that for years, yes. Yeah. But anyway, just one objection, so.
I'll before I send the bids out, I'll have a copy for the board to.
Yeah, you're right, because if he's saying we need a mile-long road and then we get maps and it's like 30 feet, that would be a different bid.
Well, and you're talking a lot of permits if we're crossing brooks and wetlands, and who's gonna do that? And there were a few other things.
Do you want to hold off until you talk to him? Again? He's
So
gotta have
we,
a map.
yeah, well, we have a map, but we don't have a map that delineates a new road. So we just don't have a new road GPSed on a map. And the permits that would be needed would be stream crossings permits. We've seen a couple of those already from Vast. So that would be called out in the bid. And that's what surrounded my discussion with Andy, was being very specific about the specifications that go out on the bid, like, stream crossing permits will be needed, things like that.
But this isn't gonna take place until you go up there and look then.
Yeah, but we know we need a mile of road, so that's what the bid's gonna consist of. It's gonna consist of a mile of road, it's gonna consist of permitting. We're gonna send those bids out, they're gonna come back, and we're gonna know how much it's gonna cost to construct it. we don't have to accept the town doesn't have to accept any of those bids.
I guess I'm confused as, he's got a map, he can't tell us where the road's going, yet he said we need a road. It doesn't make sense.
There's an existing road. I wish I could pull up the map of
So
the
there's gotta be a
stands.
plot of timber someplace that he knows we need to get to that we can't
He
without
does.
that road.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, but he's guaranteeing it's a mile road in.
Yes, yeah. Well, and that's on the, and that actually, when you look at the town, I'm sorry, I'm stuttering here. When you're looking at the forest management plan, one of the town's objectives clearly states that a 1 mile road would be installed to continue harvesting the property. So that was on the plan that the town signed in 2019 as an objective from our side.
I remember. Yeah. All right, so,
So we can wait. I mean, I'm not gonna have a bid ready till spring anyway, so.
okay. You mean,
I'm not gonna have bids, packets prepared until spring.
okay, as to what exactly you want and need for it, you mean? You mean you aren't gonna have an RFP prepared?
Yeah,
Prepared
correct.
till then? Okay. All right, so we'll just put that on hold then? The
Yeah.
motion?
Yes.
All right. Okay,
Yeah, and just so we're clear, what
Where
I'll
is
do is I'll meet with Andy, we'll GPS the road.
We'll take a look
We'll
at it.
show the board the coordinates on the map, and then we'll go out for bid following the
Okay,
guidance
right.
from the board.
because that can make a difference too on the bid of like how the terrain that they're going up
Mm-hmm.
through as far as bidding, you know, how can they bid if it's just a cut through and that was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, next up is the proposed amendment to Proctor's public nuisance ordinance. Everybody got a copy of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any comment, questions? Is there a motion to approve the amended ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so a motion to amend the public nuisance ordinance to establish conditions for keeping of certain animals has been made and seconded. Motion carries. Okay, next up, town meeting warning, articles, and setting.
Yeah, let me get my notes back out here, because they're gonna have to be helpful. So we're starting with logging. I think I'm kind of in somewhat order.
He was just pointing out.
There's two Article 10s. I just noticed it.
I'll fix that. Maybe it's different on the, okay. Yeah, I gotta fix that. Don't anybody go anywhere until I fix it. We're all set. Okay, so we'll start with Article 8, the Forest Management Plan Reserve Fund. The idea here is to move money outside of the Building Improvement Fund, put it into the Forest Management Fund, just in case the town needs the money to build a logging road.
You're talking 1 year? Or forever?
Yeah, so this would just create a brand-new reserve fund, and it took a good bit of research for me to kind of get up to speed on all of this, but, and the board may know this, so forgive me if I'm insulting your intelligence by just repeating it, but once a reserve fund is voted on, that reserve fund has a name and it has a specific use. And the only way that reserve fund can go away is if the town votes for it to go away. So even if the town voted to move all of the money out of the building improvement fund, there would still be a building improvement fund. It would just have a balance of zero. So what is being proposed here in Article 8 is to establish a reserve fund called the Forest Management Plan. or Forest Management Reserve Fund. And the use of that will be to construct a road if the town needs the money to construct the road. The Article 9 following that seeks approval from the voter to move money, the $107,000, out of the Building Improvement Fund into the Forest Reserve Fund, which will last until it's empty and voters don't want a Forest Management Reserve Fund. Since we're getting so close to putting our annual report out, I thought the safest thing to do here would at least put it on the warning. So if the board thought it was a good idea to have that safety net there, it was there. And in the future, if we don't have to spend the money to build the road, that money can be voted to go back into the Building Improvement Fund or any other reserve fund. So very specific way for how this money can be spent and how it can be moved.
Okay, good, thank you.
And it saves us from having to do a special town meeting if it ends.
Correct.
Anybody have questions? Okay.
Question here.
Oh, sorry.
The public nuisance, I know you already asked that, but what that entail?
It basically added additional wording to, conditions for keeping certain animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's lengthy, it's, basically nonconformity with the provisions and conditions listed here and after regarding the harboring of keeping of animals within town limits shall constitute a public nuisance. So harboring or raising of livestock is prohibited, included but not limited to horses, cattle, sheep, swine, hogs, or fur-bearing animals within the written approval of all homeowners' property within 100 yards of the premises in which a livestock is being kept. Number 2 is no livestock, swine, or hog shall be kept within 100 feet of any residence, dwelling house, or street. Livestock pens and yards must be kept deodorized by the application of dried muck, dry earth, or some other effective absorbent or disinfectant, provided nevertheless that no person, persons, firm, partnership, corporation, or other legal entity shall keep or maintain more than 4 swine or hogs within the limits of the city. Number 3 is no fowl or chicken shall be kept on property in such a manner as to cause a public nuisance, and the building and yard shall be kept deodorized by the application of dry earth or some other effective absorbent or disinfectant. All fowl and chickens kept within the town limits shall be confined in an enclosure and shall not be permitted to run at large. No more than 12 fowl or chickens may be harbored on a single premises. Number 4, it is prohibited for any person to own, possess, or harbor a rooster within town limits. Number 5, no more than 4 cats or dogs over 6 months old shall be harbored or kept on the property or premises. And number 6, required agricultural practices as defined in 24 VSA section 4413D shall not constitute a public nuisance. And then up beyond that, prior to that, there was a number 7 added, that was the keeping of livestock, including swine, hogs, cattle, horses, fowl, or other animals on property in any manner that constitutes a public health hazard, or in a manner that does not comply with the conditions for keeping certain animals as stated in section 3.
This is just the,
This, and that'll be posted.
Yeah. So the pen battle, when's that going to affect?
60 days from today.
It's winter, ground's frozen, I'm sorry about the pen and ground's frozen. So I'm not sure if you want to lengthen that or.
No, we can't, I mean, when you do new ordinance, it's the 60 days is when you,
How do you expect people
Change
to
it.
build a pen with frozen ground?
you can build pens above the ground. I've seen them. I don't know, I don't raise chickens. Is there any other questions or comments? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anybody on there have anything? No? Okay. Okay.
All right, and then I guess I'll just kind of run through this. So that was the reasoning for the Forest Management Reserve Fund. And then the next is the Capital Improvement and Planning Reserve Fund. This took a little bit of work to figure out as well. I don't have a follow-up article to this because the town has plenty of reserve funds that are just classified as that inside of the operating budget. Like take, for instance, our fire department equipment reserve fund. Every year, the town allocates, what, 76,000 or however much it is, and it just filters into there. I'll have to, if we want to pursue Article 10, I'll just have to make a line item revision in the approved budget, in the annual budget. So we're not changing the number, we're just changing the classification of planning commission funds. And I think as long as there's a consensus from the board that that's okay, I don't think I need more than that. And then lastly, Board of Cemetery, this came up kind of at the last minute when Celia was reviewing the elected and appointed positions. We've had no petitions for the cemetery commission. Well, we've had no petitions for anyone to run for cemetery commissioners. There's also a very weird, it might not be weird, but it's weird to me, the staggering of the terms. So right now we have a 5-member cemetery commission, and it's supposed to be a 5-year term, 4-year term, 3-year term, 2-year term, 1-year term, so that there's a constant rotation. Since everyone's term is up this year, I don't think that's the way it's been done. So the easiest way for me, the easiest way it seems to me is just to hand over responsibility and care of the cemeteries to the select board, and the select board can appoint officials that they want to care for the cemetery, or it could fall on to staff.
I don't know. I mean, usually the commissioners are the ones that take care of, everything with the cemetery. I mean,
There's been issues with the cemetery commission. We could talk about this a little more in the executive session if we want to. I think it'd be better there.
I think it's going to end up falling to the select board anyway, just because you're not going to have enough members on the 5-person commission.
So if it falls to the select board, then we could basically try to create a committee with people,
Sure.
volunteers on it?
Sure.
Anybody have any other thoughts on that?
Let's hang on to it for a while, though.
Well, it has to be, and, I mean, you need it in the article, right?
I do. It's either that or we go out for 5 terms on the, and I just, I'd be surprised if we found 5 write-ins. But,
Yeah, between now and March.
well, towns are allowed to have 5 and 3, and we've got a 5. And those 5, I think, are exiting.
So what do we want to do?
I think we should take it over for a while here, and come spring, perhaps we could get another commission going. There needs to be some work done before that happens, though.
Is everybody okay with that? Leave it on as Article 11?
Yeah, I mean, leave it on, and if people want to volunteer, they can be appointed, just
Right,
like.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to look much different than it does now. It'll just be a position that's serving the board compared to an elected position. Whether that's staff or volunteer.
Okay, so with a change and a correction to Article 10 being Article 11 on the last one, is there a motion to approve the warning?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve warning is carried. Is there a motion to host an in-person town meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any new business or additional business? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.